What is up? What is up, YouTube? How y'all doing? Check this out, man. I was going through the internet. Chaka Khan. Hey, Chaka Khan walks off of Jennifer Hudson's show after heated argument. Hit that subscribe button, hit that bell, man. Oh, that's the wifey calling me. Hit that subscribe button, hit that bell.
Voices in music history.
Let me refresh.
What happens when two powerhouse vocalists clash over respect, legacy, and the music industry? You're about to witness one of the most explosive moments in daytime television history. Before we dive into this incredible story, make sure you hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments who you think was in the right here.
Oh, here we go.
Because this is going to blow your mind. The Jennifer Hudson show was running smoothly that afternoon. The studio...
First of all, man, before you... Oh, my God. There's a thing. You need to respect your elders, your older people, whatever. And by far, I don't know what happened. I'm dying to see. This is the first time I'm seeing this. But I'm going to say that I think Jennifer should have showed her any type of respect. Even if you disagree with the elder people, you need to show them a respect and say, yes, ma'am, yes, sir, whatever the case may be. That's just my opinion.
The studio audience was buzzing with excitement as they waited for one of the most legendary voices in music history to grace the stage. Chaka Khan, the Queen of Funk herself, was scheduled to discuss her new memoir and reflect on her decades-long career that has influenced countless artists, including Jennifer Hudson herself. Behind the scenes, however, tensions were already brewing. According to sources close to the production, Chaka had specific requests for the interview. She wanted to focus primarily on her book and her upcoming tours, steering clear of certain personal topics that had been rehashed countless times in other interviews. The production team assured her publicist that they understood completely. Jennifer Hudson walked onto the set wearing a bright smile and a stunning emerald dress that complemented her radiant energy. The audience erupted in applause as she took her place behind the host desk. She had been looking forward to this interview for weeks, considering Chaka Khan one of her biggest inspirations. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to the incomparable, the legendary, the Queen of Funk herself, Chaka Khan. Jennifer announced with genuine enthusiasm. The audience rose to their feet as Chaka made her entrance, dressed in an elegant black ensemble with statement jewelry that caught the studio lights perfectly. She moved with the confidence of someone who had commanded stages for over 5 decades. Her signature smile was present, but those who knew her well might have noticed a slight tension in her posture. The two women embraced warmly, and for a moment, everything seemed perfect. They settled into their chairs as the applause died down, and Jennifer began with what appeared to be a safe opening. Chaka, it is such an honor to have you here. I have been a fan since I was a little girl, and your voice has been such an inspiration to me throughout my entire career, Jennifer began, her voice filled with genuine admiration. Thank you, sweetheart. That means a lot coming from someone as talented as you, Chaka responded, though there was something measured about her tone. Now, I know you have this beautiful memoir coming out, and I cannot wait to dive into that. But first, I have to ask, because I think our audience would love to know, what was it like working with some of the biggest names in music history? I mean, you've collaborated with everyone from Stevie Wonder to Prince. Chaka's expression remained pleasant, but she shifted slightly in her chair. Well, Jennifer, those experiences were incredible, and I actually go into great detail about many of those collaborations in my book. The stories behind those sessions, the creative process, the friendships that formed, it's all there. Jennifer nodded enthusiastically. That's fantastic, and we definitely want to talk about the book. But our viewers are so curious about the behind-the-scenes moments. Like, what was Prince really like in the studio? There was a pause, just a beat too long before Chaka responded. Prince was a genius, a perfectionist, and someone I respected immensely. As I said, the book really captures those moments in a way that does them justice. Jennifer seemed to sense something, but pressed forward. Of course, and speaking of legends, I have to ask about your relationship with Whitney Houston. I know you two were close, and her passing was such a loss to all of us in the music community. Chaka's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Whitney was like a daughter to me, and losing her was devastating. It's still difficult to talk about, which is why I prefer to let my written words speak to that relationship. I completely understand, and I don't want to cause you any pain, Jennifer said, her voice softening. But I think it would be so meaningful for our audience to hear about the Whitney you knew personally, the woman behind the voice that inspired so many of us. The tension in the room was starting to become palpable, though the studio audience remained unaware of the shift in energy. Chaka took a deep breath, her fingers drumming once against the armrest of her chair. Jennifer, I appreciate your curiosity. I really do. But I thought we had discussed focusing on my memoir and my current projects. These are deeply personal losses and experiences that I've chosen to address in my book, where I can give them the proper context and respect they deserve. Jennifer's smile faltered for just a moment. Of course, Chaka, I respect that completely. Let's talk about the memoir then. What inspired you to write your story now? For the first time since sitting down, Chaka seemed to relax slightly. Well, after all these years in the industry, I felt it was time to set the record straight about my journey, my struggles, my triumphs, and the lessons I've learned along the way. There are so many stories that have never been told, and I wanted to share them in my own words. That's beautiful, Jennifer responded, genuinely interested now, and I'm sure there were moments in your career where you had to fight to be heard. To be respected as not just a voice, but as an artist was something important to say. Absolutely, Chaka agreed, warming to the topic. The music industry, especially when I was coming up, was not always kind to women, particularly women of color who wanted creative control over their work. I had to learn to stand up for myself, to demand respect, and to never compromise my artistic vision for anyone. Jennifer leaned forward, clearly engaged. That's such an important message, especially for young artists watching today. Can you tell us about a specific moment when you had to make that stand? Chaka paused, considering her response carefully. There were many moments, Jennifer, but one that stands out was early in my solo career. I was working with a producer who kept trying to push me in a direction that didn't feel authentic to who I was as an artist. He wanted to change everything about my sound, my style, even suggested I change my name. Your name. But Chaka Khan is iconic, exactly. And I told him that. I said, look, you can work with Chaka Khan as I am, or you can find someone else to mold into whatever vision you have, but I'm not changing my essence for anyone. The conversation seemed to be flowing better now, and Jennifer appeared more comfortable. That's incredible. And it obviously worked out because look at the legendary career you've built. Your voice is unmistakable. Your style is completely your own. Thank you. That means a lot, Chaka said, and for the first time, her smile seemed completely genuine. But then Jennifer made a decision that would change the entire trajectory of the interview, perhaps feeling more confident now that they had found their rhythm. Or maybe thinking she could approach the topic more delicately, she decided to circle back to an earlier subject. Chaka, I hope you don't mind me asking this, because I think it would be so inspiring for our audience to hear. But when you talk about standing up for yourself and demanding respect, it makes me think about some of the challenges you've faced personally. I know you've been open about your struggles, and I think your strength in overcoming them is just incredible. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Chaka's expression went from warm to stone cold in an instant. The drumming of her fingers against the chair stopped abruptly, and she fixed Jennifer with a stare that could have cut through steel. Excuse me? Chaka said, her voice dangerously quiet. Jennifer, perhaps not fully grasping the shift in energy, continued. I just think your journey of recovery and healing is so inspiring, and I know there are people watching who could benefit from hearing about your strength. The silence that followed was deafening. Even the studio audience seemed to sense that. Something had changed, though they couldn't quite put their finger on what Chaka Khan, the woman who had commanded stages around the world, who had stared down record executives and music industry power players, was now fixing Jennifer Hudson, with a look that made it clear this interview was about to take a very different turn. Jennifer, Chaka said, her voice low, but carrying the weight of decades of experience dealing with intrusive questions. I thought I made myself clear backstage about what topics I was comfortable discussing today. Jennifer shifted uncomfortably in her chair, suddenly aware that she had crossed a line, but seemingly unsure how to navigate back to safer ground. Chaka, I didn't mean to overstep. I just thought that sharing your story of overcoming challenges might help people who are going through similar struggles. My story? Chaka's eyebrows raised, and there was a sharp edge to her voice now. My story is not your content, Jennifer. My struggles, my personal battles, my recovery, these are not talking points for your show. The studio audience was now fully aware that something was wrong. The energy had shifted so dramatically that even the cameramen were exchanging uncertain glances. Jennifer's production team could be seen in the wings, frantically trying to figure out how to handle the situation. I understand that, Chaka, and I respect your privacy completely, Jennifer said, her voice taking on a more defensive tone. But you have been open about these things in other interviews, and I thought maybe you'd be willing to share that inspiration with our audience. Chaka leaned forward in her chair, her eyes never leaving Jennifer's face. Other interviews? Which interviews are you referring to, exactly? Jennifer hesitated, clearly realizing she was digging herself deeper into a hole she hadn't meant to create. Well, I mean, over the years you've spoken about your journey, and I just thought, double quotes you, thought what, exactly? Chaka interrupted, her voice rising slightly. That because I've been in this industry for 50 years, because I'm a legend as you called me, that my personal life is fair game for anyone who wants to boost their ratings. The accusation hit Jennifer like a physical blow. Her face flushed, and for the first time since the interview began, she looked genuinely angry rather than just uncomfortable. Chaka, that's not what this is about at all. I have nothing but respect for you, respect. Chaka laughed, but there was no humor in it. Is this what you call respect? Agreeing to focus on my book and my music, then ambushing me with questions about my most personal struggles on live television? It's not live, and I wasn't ambushing you, Jennifer shot back, her own frustration beginning to show. I was trying to have a real conversation with you, not just some surface-level promotional interview. The tension in the studio was now so thick you could cut it with a knife. Several audience members were looking around nervously, unsure if they should be witnessing what was clearly becoming a very personal confrontation between two powerful women. A real conversation. Chaka's voice dripped with sarcasm. Jennifer, let me explain something to you about real conversations. They're based on mutual respect and consent. When someone tells you they don't want to discuss certain topics, a real conversation respects those boundaries. Jennifer's jaw tightened. I understand boundaries, Chaka, but I also understand that sometimes as artists, we have a responsibility to share our experiences if they can help others. Don't you dare, Chaka said, her voice now carrying the full force of her legendary presence. Don't you dare lecture me about my responsibilities as an artist. I was fighting battles in this industry before you were even born. I was breaking down barriers and paving the way for artists like you when you were still dreaming of having a career. The words hung in the air like a challenge. Jennifer's eyes widened, and for a moment, she looked like she might back down. But then something shifted in her expression, a flash of defiance that matched Chaka's energy. And I'm grateful for that, Chaka. I really am. But that doesn't give you the right to act like I'm some amateur who doesn't know how to conduct an interview. I've been doing this for years, and I know how to treat my guests with respect. Respect. Chaka stood up abruptly, causing several audience members to gasp. You call ignoring my explicitly stated boundaries respect? You call pushing topics? I specifically said I didn't want to discuss respect. Jennifer remained seated but straightened in her chair, clearly not intimidated by Chaka's imposing presence. I call trying to have an authentic conversation with a legendary artist respect. I call giving you a platform to potentially inspire millions of people respect. You call exploiting my personal pain for your show's content respect? Chaka fired back. Jennifer, you may have won an Oscar. You may have a successful talk show. But you clearly haven't learned the first thing about respecting your elders or honoring the people who came before you. The mention of her Oscar seemed to strike a nerve with Jennifer. She stood up as well, now facing Chaka across the small coffee table that separated their chairs. My elders, Chaka, I've always shown you nothing but respect and admiration. But
just because you say that don't mean you doing it. The words coming out your mouth and the action that your body is doing. Come on, man. Don't disrespect your elders. Even if they wrong, you don't do that.
Facing Chaka across the small coffee table that separated their chairs. My elders, Chaka, I've always shown you nothing but respect and admiration. But respect goes both ways, and right now you're being incredibly condescending. Condescending? Chaka's voice rose to a level that commanded attention from everyone in the studio. I'm being condescending? You invite me onto your show? You agree to discuss my book and my current projects? Then you spend the entire interview trying to drag me through my personal trauma for entertainment value, and I'm the one being condescending? That's not what happened here, and you know it, Jennifer responded, her own voice raising to match Chaka's energy. I asked you respectful questions about your journey, about experiences you've shared publicly before. Respectful questions. Chaka laughed bitterly. Jennifer, you wouldn't know a respectful question if it bit you on that Oscar-winning behind of yours. You want to talk about my struggles? Let's talk about them. Let's talk about how young artists today think they can disrespect legends just because they have their own success. The audience was now completely silent, watching this confrontation unfold like witnesses to a car crash they couldn't look away from. The production team was in full panic mode, with producers frantically trying to decide whether to cut to commercial or let this play out. Jennifer's face was now flushed with anger and embarrassment. I never disrespected you, Chaka. Not once in this entire interview have I been anything but respectful and admiring. Then you have a very different definition of respect than I do. Chaka shot back. Because where I come from, when someone tells you they don't want to discuss something, you respect that. You don't keep pushing and prodding and trying to find different angles to get them to open up about their pain. I was trying to give you an opportunity to help people, Jennifer said, her voice now shaking slightly with emotion. Your story of overcoming addiction, of rebuilding your life that could inspire someone who's struggling right now. The word addiction seemed to hit Chaka like a physical blow. Her entire body tensed, and when she spoke again, her voice was deadly quiet. Did you just say addiction on television? Jennifer's eyes widened as she realized what she had done. Chaka, did you just say that word about me on your television show after I explicitly told you I didn't want to discuss personal struggles? Chaka's voice was getting louder with each word. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, ... Jennifer started, but Chaka cut her off. You didn't mean to, what? You didn't mean to completely violate my privacy? You didn't mean to exploit my personal business for your show? You didn't mean to show me the ultimate disrespect? Jennifer looked around desperately, as if seeking help from her production team, but everyone seemed frozen by the intensity of the moment. Chaka, please, let me apologize properly. I made a mistake. A mistake. Chaka's voice was now booming through the studio. Jennifer, this wasn't a mistake. This was a choice.
The fallout from Chaka Khan
to ignore my boundaries. You chose to push topics I said were off limits. You chose to prioritize your show over my comfort and dignity. The confrontation had reached a boiling point, and everyone in the studio could sense that something explosive was about to happen. Chaka Khan, the woman who had never backed down from a fight in her entire career, was squaring off against Jennifer Hudson, who, despite her success, was clearly out of her depth in this particular battle. Chaka, please, Jennifer said, her voice now pleading as she realized the full magnitude of what was happening. Can we please just take a moment to reset? I never intended for this to go this way. Chaka looked at Jennifer with a mixture of disappointment and fury that seemed to encompass decades of similar experiences. Reset, Jennifer. There is no reset from disrespect. There is no taking back what you just did on national television. Jennifer's hands were visibly shaking now. As she tried to salvage what was clearly becoming a career-defining disaster, I understand you're upset, and you have every right to be. But we can work through this. We can edit out anything you're uncomfortable with. Edit it out? Chaka's laugh was sharp and bitter. You think this is about editing? You think you can just cut out the part where you violated my boundaries and pretend it never happened? The studio audience was completely captivated by what they were witnessing. Some people were holding up their phones, despite the no recording policy, knowing they were seeing something that would be talked about for years to come. Others sat in stunned silence, uncertain whether they should be witnessing such a raw, personal confrontation. That's not what I meant, Jennifer said desperately. I meant we could have a real conversation about what just happened. We could address it properly. A real conversation. Chaka shook her head in disbelief. Jennifer, you keep using that phrase like you actually know what it means. A real conversation starts with respect. It starts with listening when someone tells you their boundaries. Jennifer's producer could be seen in the wings, making frantic hand signals, clearly trying to get Jennifer to de-escalate the situation.
Wow.
But both women were now so locked in their confrontation that they seemed oblivious to anyone else in the room. I was listening, Chaka. I heard everything you said. But I also thought that maybe, in the moment, you might be willing to share something that could really make a difference for people watching. In the moment, Chaka's eyebrows shot up. So, you thought you could manipulate me in the moment? You thought you could catch me off guard and get me to say something I had already told you I didn't want to discuss. The accusation of manipulation seemed to hit Jennifer like a slap. Her face went pale, then flushed red again. I would never try to manipulate you, Chaka. I have too much respect for you as an artist and as a person. Respect for me as a person. Chaka's voice was incredulous now. Jennifer, if you had any respect for me as a person, you would have honored what I told you before we started filming. You would have focused on my book, my music, my tour. Instead, you decided to turn this into some kind of therapy session for your audience's entertainment. Jennifer looked around the studio, seemingly just now becoming fully aware of the hundreds of eyes watching this confrontation unfold. When she spoke again, her voice was quieter, but still defiant. That's not fair, Chaka. I never intended for this to be entertainment. I genuinely thought your story could help people. My story? Chaka stepped closer to Jennifer, her presence now completely dominating the space between them. Let me tell you something about my story, Jennifer. My story is mine to tell, when I want to tell it, how I want to tell it, and to whom I want to tell it. It is not yours to extract for content. The power dynamic in the room had completely shifted. Jennifer, despite being the host on her own show, now looked small and uncertain in the face of Chaka's righteous anger. Several audience members were whispering among themselves, clearly uncomfortable with the intensity of what they were witnessing. I understand that now, Jennifer said, her voice barely above a whisper. I see that I overstepped, and I'm genuinely sorry. You're sorry now, Chaka said, her tone unforgiving. You're sorry now that you've been called out on national television. You're sorry now that your disrespect has been exposed for everyone to see. But where was that sorry when I was sitting right here telling you I didn't want to discuss certain topics? Jennifer's eyes filled with tears, whether from frustration, embarrassment, or genuine remorse. It was impossible to tell. Chaka, I swear to you, I thought I was being respectful. I thought I was giving you an opportunity to inspire people. An opportunity. Chaka's voice rose again.
Inspire?
Jennifer, I have been inspiring people for over 50 years. I have been sharing my music, my passion, my talent with the world since before you were even a dream in your parents' minds. I don't need you to give me opportunities to inspire people. The reference to their age difference and career timelines seemed to sting Jennifer deeply. I know your legacy, Chaka. I know what you've accomplished. That's exactly why I was so honored to have you here. Honored, Chaka shook her head. If you were truly honored to have me here, you would have treated this interview with the respect it deserved. You would have followed the guidelines we agreed upon. You would have honored my wishes instead of trying to turn me into content for your show. Jennifer wiped at her eyes, smearing her carefully applied makeup. I don't know how to fix this, Chaka. I don't know how to make this right. You can't fix it, Chaka said simply. Some things, once broken, cannot be repaired. Some lines, once crossed, cannot be uncrossed. The finality in Chaka's voice sent a chill through the entire studio. Even the crew members who had seen countless interviews go sideways had never witnessed anything quite like this level of raw, unfiltered confrontation between two major celebrities. So what happens now? Jennifer asked, her voice small and defeated. Chaka looked at her for a long moment, then glanced around the studio at the audience. The cameras, the crew members, all watching this unfold. When she spoke again, her voice was calm but filled with a quiet dignity that commanded absolute attention. What happens now, Jennifer, is that I leave. I leave because I refuse to be part of a show that doesn't respect its guests. I leave because I refuse to let anyone, no matter how successful they think they are, treat me with disrespect. The studio fell completely silent. Even the sound technicians seemed to be holding their breath. I leave, Chaka continued, because I have spent my entire career standing up for myself and for other artists, and I'm not about to stop now. I leave because sometimes walking away is the most powerful statement you can make.
Amen.
Jennifer stood frozen as Chaka began to remove her microphone, her hand steady despite the emotional intensity of the moment. Chaka, please, Jennifer made one final attempt. Don't leave like this. Let's talk about this off camera. Let's figure out how to move forward. Chaka paused in removing her microphone and looked directly into Jennifer's eyes. Jennifer, the time for talking was before you decided to ignore everything I told you about my boundaries. The time for respect was when I was sitting in that chair, trusting you to honor our agreement. She finished removing her microphone and placed it carefully on the coffee table between their chairs. I have been in this industry long enough to know when someone is trying to use me, even if they convince themselves they have good intentions. The audience watched in stunned silence as Chaka Khan, with the poise and dignity that had defined her entire career, began to walk toward the studio exit. Her heels clicked against the floor with a rhythm that seemed to emphasize the gravity of the moment. This is what happens, she said, turning back to address not just Jennifer, but the entire room. When you forget that legends are not content to be consumed. We are human beings, deserving of respect, and when that respect is not given, we have every right to demand it by removing ourselves from disrespectful situations.
Amen.
With that, Chaka Khan walked off the Jennifer Hudson show, leaving behind a studio full of shocked faces, a host in tears, and a moment that would be replayed and analyzed for years to come.
Chaka.
Jennifer remained standing alone in the middle of her, set the weight of what had just transpired, settling over her like a heavy blanket. The audience didn't know whether to applaud, console her, or simply sit in the uncomfortable silence that had filled the room. The cameras kept rolling, capturing every second of the aftermath. As Jennifer Hudson realized, she had just experienced one of the most humbling moments of her career, witnessed by hundreds of people who would never forget the day Chaka Khan taught everyone in that room about the true meaning of respect and dignity. What do you think about this incredible confrontation? Was Chaka Khan right to walk off, or did Jennifer Hudson deserve a chance to make things right? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and make sure to subscribe for more incredible celebrity stories that you won't believe actually happened.
Wow, that is crazy. Is this the I pulled it up already. Let's go with this. This is crazy, man. This is the actual interview. I'm assuming I'm kind of doing all this as we speak, man, and I just want to play a little bit of this to see what's going on, see what the vibe feel like. You feel me?
Single that we released, and it didn't do very well.
Okay.
But that's okay. Tell Me Something Good was actually the one.
Okay, they talking about the music. I don't want to get no copyright strikes, so I'm just going.
What is Chaka?
I can't help it.
Yes.
I really can't help it. She started playing it, and I said, "What else you got?"
Okay, they talking about the songs and stuff, and they look like they doing a good job.
I said, "So how old is she?" So she said, I think she said about 14, 15, something.
Okay, let me fast forward. Let me take a big jump.
Feel some kind of comfort singing something like, "I'm every woman." See, I was.
She's very honest. See, y'all see why I want to ask this question? Okay. What is something?
Wait a minute. Let's see what question that was.
And it's all in us.
Okay.
You know.
You have a very interesting life, so I want to know more, and I want to play a game. Chaka Khan, you tell me more. I'm going to ask you a question, and you're going to answer it truthfully, and I want to get as many in as I can because I want to know everything. Okay, so what was your first impression of Prince?
Who is this little dude?
Okay. All right. So it's...
Well, not at first.
Not at first. She's very honest. See, y'all see why I want to ask this question? Okay. What is something you turned down in your career, like a project or a movie or something?
But you should ask that.
Yeah, see, I want you to know.
Well, you know I turned down The Color Purple, the movie.
What? Is that right? Whoa, okay. It seemed like they having a good time doing a regular interview to me.
After,
no.
She ain't work. Well, this must be a different one.
some gospel song on stage. And I don't know any gospel music because I I was raised in the Catholic Church.
You were?
So yes, I'm a recovered.
Okay. It's even at the
Hold
end.
on to the habit.
Do you really know?
She's the queen of
Are you
funk, baby.
kidding?
You better have it. And it works with your look. I'm just saying. I love you.
I don't think.
Oh my God.
I don't know, man. Y'all let me know.
You like your color?
I love it.
You do. You hold on
I'm
to it.
going to cherish this for life. What's left?
If you like this video, smash that like button and
Hold up, man. This is, oh man. See, people send me stuff and I go ahead and do the reaction to it, but y'all let me know in the comments, man. I'm tripping, but it seemed like to me, she didn't walk off, and it seemed like they ain't had no problems, even in the beginning.
Thing. Oh. And they're both painters.
painters.
Yeah, in the best way possible. You know, you're setting your own tone.
I don't know. I gotta look at the whole thing, man. I'm skipping around and everything, and I apologize, y'all. But look here, I'm gonna get on up out of here. Hey, y'all, take it light, take it slow. Tell them Uncle Mike told you so. Peace out.